So it is springtime here in the Valley of the Sun, and that means relocation season. Across the country, schools are starting to wind down, and this is the time of year that we see a ton of people planning for a move. And if that move for you includes a move here to the Phoenix area, then this is the video for you, because I'm going to be sharing 5 things that I wish I had done a little bit differently when my family and I decided to relocate to Phoenix. So stay tuned. If this is your first time on my channel and you want to know everything there is to know about living here in Phoenix, Arizona and the surrounding suburbs, then make sure you go down below, hit that subscribe button, and ring the little bell for the notifications. That way you will be the first person to know about all the goings on here in the Phoenix market. My name is Brian Elder, and I get calls, texts, and emails every single day from people exactly like you, and you, and you, and you, and you, who are all thinking about moving to this fantastic place. So if you're moving in 6 days or 6 months, it does not matter. Feel free to give me a call, shoot me a text, or send me an email. You can even schedule a Zoom call with me. That is my favorite. All of that information right down below in the description, and I would love to help you make a smooth move here to Phoenix. Okay, so the first thing I would do differently, I would not have signed a 12-month lease agreement. We did that for a reason. We thought that we were going to be building a new home, and that was an 18-month process at the time. So we figured we'd rent for that first year and then go to month after that, and hey, we could move out when it was convenient for us and it'd all work out nice and smoothly. Well, it didn't exactly happen that way. The David Weekly home that we loved sold out, so we had to start looking for something else, and we ended up here in Eastmark, which we love, and I'm really glad that it worked out this way. But we did have to terminate that lease, pay a couple of months of penalty, which wasn't that bad considering how those things can sometimes be worded. So we got off relatively light. However, I totally wouldn't have done that if I was able to do it again. I would have found a month-to-month agreement or found a short-term rental, because you never know when your plans are gonna change. A lot of people think that they're gonna go the new build route, end up finding out that it can be a bit of a headache sometimes, and they decide to go into the resale route. So it just gives you that flexibility if you're on a month-to-month basis, to where you're not gonna be stuck with this huge lease termination fee if you decide to go a different direction. The second thing I would have done differently, I would have known the school schedule and the childcare availability a little bit better. So we wanted to get our oldest son, who was just about to turn 4, into childcare. We were looking into the pre-kindergarten options to get him into some kind of daycare facility, and it turns out those are in demand, which we knew they would be, but we didn't research it as much as we should have. Now, bless my wife, she did such a good job of finding him the place where he ended up at now, which is Santan Charter School, a great option. Look into it if you are so inclined. But we had to really kind of scramble and look around, because it was really kind of tricky to find that childcare, and we had no idea that school here starts the last week of July for a lot of the school districts. Now, not all of them, but a lot of them go back, we call it the modified year-round school schedule. They go back at the end of July, they go through the fall, they have a 2-week break in the middle of the fall, then they go to Christmas vacation where they get another 2 weeks, 2 weeks again for spring break, and school wraps up usually around the end of May. So it's a little bit different. A lot of people aren't used to that because it's kind of unusual. You don't see that in a lot of other parts of the country. And so if you're moving with kids, or if you have preschoolers, make sure you're investigating those options early, and you might move the move date up a little bit more than you otherwise would, because again, they're going back to school at the end of July. If you want them to start on time, you'll need to be here by that time. Another thing I do a little bit differently this time is do a little bit more homework on commute times, as well as distance to fun things that we're gonna spend our time at. So when we first got here, again, we didn't know the area all that well, so we just decided, hey, let's find a house with a pool in a nice looking community, about the right square footage, and hey, that'll work wherever it is. So we found one in Santan Valley. It was a great community, it was a really nice house, but it was a long ways from my office, first and foremost, and secondly, from a lot of the things that we found out we wanted to spend our time at. So my commute to my office was about 50 minutes, which is pretty lengthy for what I was looking for. That was a lot farther than I was planning on, and I really wish I would have spent a little bit more time thinking that over, and even going and making a test run, drive to the place and back at the time of day that you're gonna be working there, and make sure that the commute's not gonna be too bad. Same thing goes for places to spend your time. So our son discovered this train park up in Scottsdale, the McCormick Stillman Railroad Museum, the train museum. He loves that place, so we go there pretty frequently. And when we were out in Santan, that was an hour at least to get there. Now it's only about half an hour, so we are very grateful that that time has been trimmed off a little bit. And so that's just one more thing to kind of think about, is make sure that if there are places that you know you are going to be going often, whether it's places that you like to eat or places with your kids, just make sure the drive isn't going to be too far, and that way you're not going to be stuck in the car all the time. So another thing to keep in mind, and something that we kind of lucked out on, is making sure that you focus on the neighborhood just as much as the house, right? And I think a lot of people know that, but it just kind of bears repeating because we almost made that mistake. So when we had the rental out in Santan Valley, it was a fine neighborhood. There wasn't anything wrong with it. The neighbors were friendly enough. We'd say hi and they'd wave back to us, but it wasn't a place where people really spent much time socializing, and our kids never really saw any other kids out on the street. It just seemed like people didn't come out of their houses in that particular area. So that was not at all what we were looking for. When we moved to Arizona, we didn't know a soul, and so we wanted a community that was buzzing with activity, where people were walking around, being friendly, saying hi to each other, getting to know the neighbors, and socializing. That's really what we wanted. And had we been in that other community for 18 months, I'm afraid of what might have happened, because we probably wouldn't have really liked it that much, because again, it just didn't seem like that was part of the culture of that particular community. So now we have that here at Eastmark. This is a great place for that, and we always have a lot of neighbors that move in and comment about how great it is, because people are out and about and the kids are out playing together, and that's really what they were looking for. So it's just something to pay attention to. I would recommend going out there in the evenings, on the weekends, and just walk around a little bit. Make sure that people are in fact out and about talking to each other, that there's activity going on, that there's kids playing, if that's the kind of thing that you're looking for. Because it's really, really easy to focus on the house. If you find a beautiful house, you're gonna love it, right? But you gotta make sure that you're gonna like the neighborhood too, because there are tons of great places to live, lots of them with beautiful homes, so make sure you're scouting the neighborhood every bit as much as you are the home. All right, so the last thing that I'd pay a little bit more attention to if I were to buy a home again here in the Valley is to make sure you pay attention to some of the smaller details. So we all tend to get caught on looking for things like the square footage, the bedrooms, the bathrooms. Is there a pool in the backyard? Is the lot size right? Those are all important, of course, but there's a lot of homes that are going to check those boxes for you. But just make sure that you pay attention to the little details. So the home that we bought is missing a couple of, say, creature comforts that we really wish that we had, but alas, we do not. And there is an option to change it, but it's going to cost a pile of money when we get around to that, and we'd prefer to not have to do that right now. So number one, we do not have the loop in the garage for a soft water system. So if you're unfamiliar with that, our water here in Arizona is really, really hard, and so it can be tough on your skin, and it's not all that tasty to drink. So most of the builders anymore are putting in what they call a loop. It's a little copper pipe that makes a little U shape. It's usually out in your garage, and it's just an easy access point for a plumber to come drop a water softener in your garage, and boom, you have soft water through the whole house, problem solved. Well, we don't have that, and so in order for us to get a water softener, it's gonna cost a fortune, because they have to replumb it and do all this stuff. So we just never got around to doing it. So I really wish that I would have paid more attention to that and would have done that from the very beginning. Again, we bought in kind of a crazy market, so we didn't really have a lot of time to think about this, but with things being a little different now, I absolutely would have spent more time on that. Another thing to pay attention to is, do you have a RO system, a reverse osmosis system for your drinking water? Because you're gonna want that for sure. We didn't at our first house or this one when we first moved into it either. And that meant that we had the fun of having a little water cooler sitting over in the corner, and I had to go to fill up the water jugs about every other day to make sure that we had good drinking water. Well, we got sick of that pretty quick, and we put the RO system in ourselves, which was great. However, the downside is they did not run a line over to the refrigerator from the kitchen island when they first built it. So if that isn't there, you're kind of out of luck, because these homes are built on what they call a post-tension concrete slab. That means that they're pieces of concrete with these super tight cables that run through it to prevent it from cracking, and you can't really cut into those unless you get some engineers and surveyors out to make sure that they don't hit those cables, which would pretty much ruin your foundation. We didn't think that was worth the trouble to run the line over to the refrigerator. So another thing I really wish we would have paid attention to. So make sure again that you're looking at those little details, because there's a lot of stuff that goes into a house, and it's really, really easy to overlook some of those things when you get enamored with the pool and all that stuff. Those things are all great to have, but just make sure that the little things are also included in the home that you buy. So those are the things that I would just make little tweaks to again if we were moving here a second time. It's just one of those things you kind of have to learn through experience. and we certainly did. So I hope that that is helpful to you if you're thinking about moving here. And again, I'm happy to answer any questions at all about a relocation if that's something on your mind. So if that is something you're looking into, give me a call, shoot me a text, send me an email, or go down below, schedule that Zoom call. Once again, all that information right down below in the description, and I would love to help you out. Thank you guys so much for watching. I really do appreciate your support as always. If you found this content helpful, make sure you subscribe to the channel and give me a thumbs up on that like button. Helps me out a ton, and I really appreciate it. Thanks again for watching, guys. Appreciate it as always. I'll see you again very soon.